I just wanted you guys to know how much I miss you. I just can't wait to see you again. But I am thankful that we get to spend a little bit of time together each week. This week, I want to tell you a story about a lady whose name was Sevilla Martin. Now, Miss Martin lived in the early part of the 20th century. The 20th century is from the year 1900 all the way up to 1999. It's 100 years. That's why it's called century, because the CNT means 100. And we're going to talk about Miss Martin's life right around 1905. So Miss Martin had a really good friend whose name was Miss Doolittle, and she went to visit Miss Doolittle often because Miss Doolittle had been sick for a really long time, and she was in the bed, and she really couldn't get out of the bed very much. It had been 20 years, and it had been going on like this, but Miss Martin would go see Miss Doolittle a lot of the time. And Miss Doolittle had a husband, Mr. Doolittle, who helped her out as best he could. But he was paralyzed, meaning he couldn't feel his legs, so he couldn't walk, and he was in a wheelchair. And so he was in a wheelchair, and she was in the bed. But Sevilla Martin noticed every time she went to visit the Doolittles, they were always so positive, and they were always so upbeat, and they were always so happy. Well, since they had been friends for so long, Miss Martin thought it would be okay for me to ask Miss Doolittle, how do you do it? I mean, Mr. Doolittle is in a wheelchair. You've been in the bed for 20 years now. I don't understand how y'all stay so positive, so upbeat, so happy. And Miss Doolittle told Miss Martin, she said, Sevilla, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches over me. And it just inspired Sevilla, and Sevilla could not stop thinking about what Miss Doolittle had said. So Sevilla Martin went home, and she took what Miss Doolittle had said, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. And she wrote a poem. I'm going to read the poem to you. And this is the poem that Miss Martin wrote. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Now I know some of you guys are thinking, hey, wait a minute, Miss Monica, I've heard that poem before. That sounds really familiar. And I bet you have. It actually became a hymn. It became a song that we sing in church. Miss Martin loved what Miss Doolittle had said, and Miss Martin loved what she wrote. And so she sent the poem to a good friend of hers named Charles Gabriel. And he was a songwriter at the time that wrote gospel songs. And so he put it to a tune. And that tune and that poem together made the gospel hymn that we all sing today that we know is called His Eyes on the Sparrow. And I'm sure y'all are familiar, especially with the chorus. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I bet you've heard that before. It's very familiar. It's a very popular song. So where did Miss Doolittle get this idea that his eye's on the sparrow, I know he watches me? Who is she talking about? Well, of course she's talking about God. And if we go to the Bible and we look in Matthew chapter 10, Jesus is having a discussion with his disciples, his friends, and he's telling them, you know, to be my friend, to be my disciple, and to follow me, and to do what we have to do, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard at times. It's going to get really rough on you guys. But I want you to know not to be afraid. And he gives them an example. He says, look at that bird over there. Look at that sparrow. what? You can get 2 sparrows for 1 copper coin. But know that if a sparrow falls to the ground, God sees it. God cares for it. And I'm telling you, God cares more for you than he does 10,000 flocks of sparrows. So if he's going to care for that sparrow, then he's certainly going to take care of you. And that's what our message is here today. That's what the message is in the hymn, His Eyes on the Sparrow. God takes care of us, and God loves us much more so than he does the birds, which he also takes care of. So we can trust in him to do that. And so what I thought would be fun today is for us to do a craft called the God's Eye, because God watches us and watches over us. In your Easter baskets, the Easter Bunny told me that you might have gotten one of these. So this is a craft, and it's called the God's Eye. And inside the bag, you would have gotten some directions, and you would have gotten some yarn and 2 sticks. If you don't have one of these, it's fine. You can use popsicle sticks. You can pick up 2 sticks off of the ground. But once you get the 2 sticks, you want to put them in a cross. And you can either glue them together, or you can tape them together, or you can tie them together, but you just need to make a cross with the 2 sticks. And then you're going to take your yarn, end of it, and you want to start, and y'all watch how I do this, you want to start and you want to make 3 loops in the center, and then go over and make 3 loops on the diagonal of the other. And you start with that part right there, and y'all can see how that looks right there. All right, once you've done that, what we're going to do is you're just going to go over one side, loop around, and then you're going to go to the next one, and you're going to go around it. And then you go to the next one, and you hold that down, and you want to go around that. You go to the next one, and you just keep alternating, wrapping them around, but trying to keep them from overlapping. And if you don't have the craft kit, you can use any yarn that you have at home. And like I said, you can get the sticks off the ground. It doesn't matter as long as you have 2 sticks. It will do what it's supposed to do. Anything that you can make a cross with. And as far as the yarn, you can use string, you can use really thin strips of cloth, any of that will work. But you keep working your way around. Also interesting is where God's Eye comes from. This craft is actually something that originated with a Native American group in Mexico. They were called the Huacos, and the Huacos would make these for children when they were born. And when the child was born, they would make only the eye part. And then each year of the child's life for the next 5 years, they would go around the outside, making the outside part. And when the child turned 5, they were given the God's Eye, which they called Los Ojos de Dios, eyes of God. And they would be given that, and it would represent for them God watching over them. And so that's what I want it to represent for us, is that to remind us that God is watching over them. So I'm trying to get closer up on this so you can see the pattern that's forming there. And you see there in the center, it looks like an eye. I bet yours are looking amazing. You know what I would love? Your parents have my email address. If they would take a picture of your God's Eye and send it to me, oh, it would make me so happy, because you guys are so creative. I know y'all's are looking amazing. And you don't have to use, this particular yarn. If you've got one of these kits, it's what they called ombre, which means it's changing color. You can see as it's changing color as we go. But you can use one color yarn And when you get to a point where you want to use another color, you can just take some scissors and cut the yarn and tie another piece on, and you can make it in your favorite colors. Because I know, like, Maximus likes black and red and white, and I know that Grace likes the colors that we're using here. She's a big fan of blues and greens and purples. And I know that Charlotte, she likes pinks and blues and purples. And Ava Lynn really likes purple and pinks. And I know that Caitlin, that she also likes greens and blues and yellows. So any of those would be great to use, and you can make yours however you like. But you should start to see the pattern forming now, and I'm gonna once again give you a closer look at what we are making so that you can see the patterns kind of coming out like that. And so we can use these so that we remind ourselves that God is always watching over us. And like I said, you can see that when you do one of these close-ups, it's Bluebell. I got Bluebell popsicle sticks that I'm using on mine, and that's fine. As I said, you can use whatever you have. And we're just gonna go, you'll just keep wrapping until you get to the end of your sticks. And what we're gonna do when we get to the end is we are going to cut it off, and we're going to make a little loop around the top, and it will allow you to actually hang these up. So I'm going to do this now. So I'm going down, and I'm going to, let me get this last little bit right here on. There we go. And when you get to the end and you're ready to stop, you want to just keep wrapping it around the end. And once you get to there, then you are going to want to tie it off so it does not unravel on you, because that would be a shame after all that hard work. And then you just take your glue and you put a little drop of glue right there on the back. Might want to open it first. And you can make a loop on the back. And just so I can show you how it's going to work, I'm going to use just a little bit of tape on there till that glue dries really well. And I'm going to cut the end off right there. There we go. Get that off of there. And you see that we have a nice hanger right there, and we can hang it up in the window, or you can hang it beside your bed, and it can always remind you that that God is watching over you. That was fun, and like I said, please have your parents take pictures of yours and send them to me. And I'm glad we got to spend some more time together, and I'll see you later this week. Bye guys.